How I spend my money is none of your business. If you have a problem with it, you can get out of here. My mother-in-law, who firmly believes the money I earn is hers and spends it as she pleases. And my husband, who simply turns a blind eye and never even bothers to admonish her. Every day I lose a little more patience with the two of them. How long must I continue to live this way? Honestly, I've been at my breaking point. Fine. I'll do as you say. I'll leave this house. Please never contact me again. My name is Ruby, a 34-year-old remote worker. 2 years ago, I married my husband Matthew, and now we live together with his mother. Matthew was raised in a single-parent household, apparently had a hard time growing up, and told me he had endured countless hardships. I want to make things easier for my mom, Matthew would often say during our courtship, and I fell for Matthew because of his gentle side. Being an only child myself, perhaps because I was the sole recipient of my parents' love, I had feelings of gratitude towards them and wanted to repay them in some way. Maybe that's why Matthew and I were able to sympathize with each other on that point. Afterward, we, who had been co-workers at the same company, decided to get married after a few years of dating. We talked about various things for the future after getting married, like where we would live, or saving money to buy a house, but our workplaces were far from both of our parents' homes, and we didn't even imagine living together at the time. Also, the first time I met my mother-in-law was during our marriage proposal, and her impression was far from the kind mother Matthew always talked about. To be honest, I felt she was someone I should absolutely avoid. So, you're Ruby, Matthew's fiancé? You're not what I imagined. I'm disappointed. I thought you were a cute, petite woman with a lovely smile. Huh? That's what my mother-in-law blurted out, barely paying attention to the greetings. Sure, at 5 feet 6 inches, I'm a bit tall for a woman, and my appearance is more stylish than pretty. Apparently, I wasn't what my mother-in-law had in her mind. Still, I never imagined being critiqued on my appearance at a first meeting. Naturally, as this was our first meeting, I couldn't respond with a joke. I simply laughed it off and pretended it didn't bother me. With the cold atmosphere that ensued, I thought Matthew would come to my rescue, but instead, he just listened to his mother's story and happily chuckled. Is it okay to marry this guy? That was the first question I had. But from what I heard, my mother-in-law had never been sick and seemed to be in good health. Her hobbies included traveling and shopping, and she had a lot of good friends in the area she was accustomed to. Also, she seemed to be actively engaging with the neighbors, so even if I had married Matthew, I believed she wasn't the type to frequently impose on our home. On the way back from our first meeting with her, I casually spoke to Matthew. Your mom is really lively, isn't she? She's never been sick. She must be very conscientious. It looks like she has lots of friends around the neighborhood, so I guess we don't have to worry about living together. Well, yeah. For now, she seems fine and I think she's okay. I have been thinking that at some point, I'll have to take care of her, but that's a future concern. Taking his words to heart, I stopped talking about my mother-in-law any further. To be honest, it was probably more of a relief. Regardless of what kind of person my mother-in-law might be, as long as my relationship with Matthew is good, there's no problem. If the issue of living together comes up decades from now, I'll deal with it then. That's how I decided to think. Shortly after, we got married. We had talked about having a grand wedding, but due to our busy work schedules, we had to postpone it. If anything, Matthew was looking forward to the wedding more than I was. He was like, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime wedding, so I want to invite everyone, coworkers, friends, relatives, and have a big celebration, and I'm sure Mom would be thrilled, too." He was saying things like that. I wasn't as keen, so I was actually grateful that work was so busy. However, around this time, I felt a growing gap between Matthew and me, as if a distance was forming in our hearts. We had different roles at work and somehow I ended up in a higher position than him, which I guess he wasn't very happy about it. I heard a rumor that you got promoted to section manager, is that true? Why didn't you turn it down? You're going to quit when we have a baby, right? Quit work? I've never even thought about that. We agreed we would both continue to work after marriage, didn't we? I understood that it was pure jealousy towards me, but I stayed silent, thinking that saying anything more would just hurt Matthew's pride. It was the only way to keep the peace. Our relationship remained awkward after that, and then Matthew said something utterly incomprehensible. I've thought about it, and I want you to stay home and take care of the household. So quit your job and make things easier for me to work. Somehow, I had a hunch he might say something like that, and it was spot on. According to a good colleague, Matthew was apparently upset about my promotion and had been complaining quite a bit at work. He had been saying that I don't do any housework, that I laze around at home, that he does all the cleaning and laundry, even prepares all the meals. No, that's not true at all. Matthew has always left all the cleaning and laundry to me. He hasn't even pressed a button on the washing machine. While I thought this to myself, I couldn't tell anyone, and before I knew it, I was seen as a wife who had abandoned housework. Naturally, I wasn't happy about the bad rumors, so I confronted him directly. Can you stop spreading weird rumors about me? That I don't do any housework. That's absolutely not true. I'm the one doing everything, right? I even prepare your lunches every day. I raised my voice, which was unusual, and he seemed surprised at first, but then he immediately retaliated. See? You never try to support me. That's why you can't handle anything. It's impossible to balance work and household chores, so just quit your job. I was too shocked to retort. What's going on in his head? I had more to say, but I decided to hold it in that day. But even after that, Matthew kept insisting I should quit my job. If you say you won't quit your job, then we can divorce. I talked to Mom, and she said you should quit your job and take care of the household perfectly, too. Matthew, unsatisfied with just gossiping about me at work, had taken to blabbing to his mother about every little thing. It was ridiculous. Yet, despite it all, I stubbornly continued working. I couldn't bear the thought of our marital relationship falling apart. After a lot of thought, I finally decided to quit my job. However, in return, I made it clear that I wanted to work from home. He didn't object. Huh? Working from home? Isn't that what people do to earn chump change? Well, if you're satisfied with that, I'll allow it. But I've got some conditions too. My husband grinned ominously. I was on edge, wondering what he would say next. What do you mean, conditions? I'm quitting my job, isn't that enough? What more do you want from me? How did my husband, Matthew, become so obnoxious? I can't even pinpoint when his personality took such a terrible turn. He started to resemble his mother so much, it's become a hassle just to talk to him. Well, my mom is moving in with us next month. Her lease is up at the end of this month. So, she'll be living with us. Hope you don't mind. What? Is he serious? This can't be happening. However, everything seemed to have been planned out so meticulously that there was hardly any time for me to say wait a minute. The very next day, my mother-in-law called me. And she was like, Ruby, I guess you've heard the news. I'll be moving out of my place at the end of this month. It's all quite sudden, but I'm counting on your support. She sounded so pleased with herself. Matthew, too, seemed thrilled as he overheard our conversation. In essence, his plan was to have me quit my job and take care of the two of them. I saw through his scheme right away. His mother said she would move in at the end of the month, but sure enough, she vacated her apartment within a week and moved into our house. She didn't lift a finger to help with the housework and instead complained constantly. She was like, You should clean the rooms thoroughly. And, Your cooking is tasteless. Who taught you to cook? I'd like to meet your parents. My living hell began the day she moved in, and 2 years later, it's still ongoing. Before I knew it, my relationship with Matthew had completely chilled. I was treated as nothing more than a housemaid, taking care of the two of them. What I realized after living with her is that she is a big spender. She has a weak spot for designer brands, and she buys something new every time a new collection is released. She has more shoes, clothes, wallets, and bags than I can count. I tried talking to Matthew about it, but he brushed me off and he was like, "Mom's always been into fashion. Well, as long as she's happy, what's the harm?" By this time, neither Matthew nor my mother-in-law were contributing a cent to our household expenses. Matthew was using the money he earned for himself and my mother-in-law. As soon as she received pension, she would go shopping. I was fed up with the monotony of everyday life, even questioning what I was doing living here. Amidst all of this, my mother-in-law and Matthew proposed something outrageous. "Hey, Mom and I are thinking about going on a trip for a week starting next month. A vacation in Cancun, pretty cool, right? We'll even get you a souvenir." What? I was taken aback by the sudden announcement. Turns out, that day was my birthday. How come forgetting my birthday and going on a vacation to Cancun? That's unthinkable. You're kidding, right? You do realize what day it is, don't you? When I said this, my mother-in-law walked over and was like, "Of course we do. You even marked it on the calendar, right? Your birthday, isn't it?" But, such things don't really matter anymore. They laughed and smirked as they looked at me. Annoyed by their attitude, before I knew it, I was blurting out my frustrations. "Enough is enough! A vacation when you don't even pay for the living expenses? I've been paying for everything these past 2 years. After all, you made me quit my job, isn't that strange?" My face was bright red with anger, and I felt I could barely control myself. But they didn't care. My mother-in-law was like, "How I spend my money is none of your business. If you have a problem with it, you can get out of here. There's no proof you've been earning money in the first place." That was her response. Even though they were living off the money they took from me and spending it as they pleased, they dared to say such things. And my husband, who ignored my mother-in-law's words and didn't even bother to intervene, was like, "You were the one being supported, weren't you? You might have had to use some of your savings recently, but don't get all high and mighty." I was fed up with these two people in front of me. How long do I have to live like this? Honestly, I'm at my wit's end. "Fine. I'll do as you say. I'll leave this house. Please never contact me again. Matthew, this is the end for us. We're getting divorced, a divorce." Perhaps they were waiting for me to leave all along. They were grinning as if they had succeeded in their plan. Then, to my astonishment, my mother-in-law was like, "Perfect. Actually, we called a locksmith today. We were thinking about changing the locks after getting rid of the nuisance." That's what she said. I don't know what kind of plan they had, but it seems they conspired to kick me out of this house today. "Mom, that's incredible. I didn't expect Ruby to decide to leave at this moment. She's unexpectedly tenacious. I thought we'd have a tougher time, but it's all good, isn't it?" These two clueless individuals were seemingly expecting to live comfortably in this house once they kicked me out. As if it would go so smoothly. "In less than an hour, the movers will arrive, so can you pack your stuff quickly? I'll dispose of the larger items as bulky waste, so please only take what you need." "Oh, sure. Okay. I don't mind you changing the locks. But, you both might want to get ready in various ways, too." I told them something ominous. Of course, they didn't seem to understand, and after that, I quickly left the house. After leaving, I had mountains of things to do. Honestly, I was so irritated that I was furious, but I was thinking of a way to calmly and carefully send these two to hell. Having made the rounds to various services, I decided to enjoy living in a hotel until I found a new place. I've hardly been able to afford luxuries before, so I decided to spend a few weeks in a luxury hotel suite. Feeling like a celebrity, I was excited about what was to come. And then, a few weeks later, I finally got a call. From the two of them, their voices sound completely desperate. "Hello? Hey. Oh, that's me, Matthew. Oh, hey. What's up? Have you by any chance received a bunch of something? They sounded completely flustered, their voices shaking. And it seemed like my mother-in-law was right there with him. I could hear a voice in the background. So? What do you want? Well, what do I want, you ask? You should know, right? We got a call from the lawyer about a divorce, and also an eviction notice within a week. This is too much, no matter what. I never even said I wanted a divorce. This is just too selfish. Let's make up each other. Matthew, about to cry, was asking for reconciliation, even at this point. From my perspective, I was like, what's gotten into this guy? After all, they forcibly took over the house I had been living in, changed the locks, and drove me out, and I was the one who owned the house. And my mother-in-law was pretty flustered, too, and she took over the phone to try to persuade me. Listen, Ruby, the divorce thing is a lie, right? Matthew and we didn't mean what we said like that. You understand, right? We just said it as a joke, but you're taking it seriously. Matthew's as Matthew does, but my mother-in-law is apparently quite an oddball, too. Well, I guess it's like the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, you know? Well, considering I was the one who got kicked out, there's no way I can make up with you. And all this time, you've been using my money, so don't mess around. Huh, but isn't that money what Matthew earned? Whatever I use the money my son earned on, that's none of your business, right? Even after explaining it before, she still seems to be completely clueless. She must have been under the impression that the money I earned belonged to Matthew. I couldn't help but let out a deep sigh when Matthew asked me as if something just occurred to him. Hey, just how much are you earning? It's strange that you own that detached house, and you've been living the same lifestyle even after quitting your job. I've never given you a cent, you know? It seems he finally realized it. And then, this guy just said it out loud. That he's not paid a single cent. Well, since we're going to be strangers anyway, I might as well tell him the truth. It'd be good for him to realize that the one that got away was a big catch. My earnings? I didn't really want to tell you, but I'll let you know. I make about $20,000 a month on average. I even paid off the mortgage on the house over the past 2 years. Actually, I've been the one supporting you and your mother all this while. What? $20,000? You're lying. There's no doubt that both Matthew and my mother-in-law must be regretting this. After all, you can't live a luxurious life on Matthew's salary alone. You see now? We used to work at the same place, so I knew roughly how much you earned. A net income of $2,000 was really tough, right? I was amazed that you even suggested to quit my job and became a housewife. Quite the character, huh? No, it's not like that. I'd been working hard, believing that I could become a department head like you someday. So, you know. It seems Matthew is under the impression that he's a capable man. He's never managed to get a position higher than a regular employee, despite being older than me, and it's clear from the company's evaluation of him. It seems like a waste of time even to bother with him. Well, I have no intention of making up with you. After all, your mother, who's notorious for her reckless spending, would inevitably come with you. I don't want to lose any more things. Just move out of the house as soon as possible. Please, Ruby. Listen to me, please. I apologize for all the horrible things I've said up to now. So, please. Despite them insisting, I have no intention of forgiving them. They really are persistent. Even my mother-in-law was like, Ruby, you can ignore me, but could you please make up with Matthew? I'll leave right now. Please, I'm begging you. This is a once-in-a-lifetime request. Look, I apologize for everything. It seems my mother-in-law was apparently crying. Of course I won't change my mind whatever they say. So, I told you it's impossible. Anyway, I'm busy, so I'll talk to you later. Irritated, I hung up the phone. Knowing how stubborn I can be, Matthew didn't push me further. And as I told him, he soon found a new place to move to. He canceled the vacation they had planned, and quickly packed up and moved out of the house. His new home is a rundown apartment that's over 60 years old. It creaks so much that it feels like the roof might fly off and the walls might collapse if a hurricane comes. Well, considering he's been living it up on my dime all this time, I guess it's about time he starts living a life that's more in his league, right? Afterwards, Matthew reported his divorce to his company. I heard that he was pretty much the laughingstock among his bosses. The boss was like, "You're such an idiot for not cherishing a competent wife when you had one." Right in front of everyone. It seems like he's been whining about me all this time, but in reality, no one believed his stories. I hear they even told him that he got what he deserved for driving me away, right in his face. Hearing that story, I must say, was pretty satisfying. Ever since then, I've bought myself a brand new condo and I've been enjoying new life. With the freedom to spend my money and my time as I please, I'm planning to aim for even greater heights in my career.